No problem. Okay, so my name is Lucy. I have two names. My name is Lucie Stefanikova, as the name that I was born with, because I was born in the Czech Republic. But now I have been living in Iceland for 10 years, and I compete for Iceland in powerlifting. And my other name is Lucy Martinsdottir. So I have one Icelandic and one Czech name. And yeah, I'm a mom of three. I am powerlifter. I compete at, I would say I'm getting to a high level now at this point. And I'm also a coach. I'm a powerlifting coach, but I'm also a personal coach and strength coach. And yeah, that's my life.
That's enough, I think. Well, I don't know about you, but to me, competing at Euros and getting a first place, I think is good enough of a level. What do you think?
Yeah, you're like, I'm starting to be, pleased with my results finally at this point.
So, why don't you tell me about how the competition went?
Yeah, so I was prepping for the Euros, and it was pretty like a breakthrough moment for me because my youngest kid is 2 year old, or she's going to be 2 now in May. And the comeback to the sport after the last pregnancy was really hard, and I had really high expectations. So I actually compared my first Euros in 2023 in December when she was just 5 months old, and I took her with me to that meet. And my mom came along to help with her, but I had horrible meet, like everything that could fail. I think I only got 3 or 4 lifts at the meet. So just I almost didn't make the total. I almost failed all my deadlifts, and that at the last deadlift day gave me finally some white lights. So this was like a horrible comeback for me. And then I competed again at the and I was going to compete at the Worlds in 2024, but there I didn't even make the weight. You know, I was like 3 kilos away from the weight, like 3 hours before the weigh-in. So that was such a bummer. So I was really maybe about the year and a half after having my third, I finally started feeling like, okay, now it's time to like train properly. And I started feeling like good. You know, I started sleeping. I started getting more rest, a little bit more routine in my life. And I got a new coach. I'm coached by Joey Flex. So we've been working together for like now probably over half a year. And so, yeah, he was helping me to prepare for the Euros. We did one national meet, just like, fun meet. And it went well. And now for this meet, we were prepping, and always the prep for me is a little bit difficult because I am working mom, but I'm also stay-at-home mom. I have one kid that's like full time at home, and other two who are in school or kindergarten. So it's always a little bit, like fight with time because I have to like shove my training in like 1.5 hour in a day. But I actually train, I train only 3 times a week, and I usually manage to squeeze it into like 2 hours. So I think that when you consider maybe how much I train to the ratio of like actually my results, I think I'm getting pretty a lot out of little work that we're doing, and it's working. So I'm really happy, and I'm really glad that the numbers are starting moving up. And it was really funny to see the commentators at the World saying like, "Oh, she really improved. Like she starting openers with her, all-time best and stuff." And I was like, "Oh, you have no idea how much struggle there has been, in the last 2 years because it was just going downhill. It was so hard to get back to the powerlifting level that I was just before I got pregnant. That yeah, I was a little bit like anticipating. It was just a matter of time to like get this breakthrough, and I'm just like excited to keep training and hopefully improve, in the coming months and years, hopefully.
Okay, so I've seen some of your videos on your Instagram profile about the competition in Malaga, and I think it went pretty good, pretty
Yeah,
well.
yeah. I
You
the goal that was for the meet there was to reclaim the European record in squat, because I did get in 2022, but I had it only maybe for 4 hours. And I was waiting for this moment for almost 3 years. But unfortunately, I didn't get to hit like such a big or like as high number as we hit during the training. So that's probably going to be something that we're going to have to fix for the words. But I'm pretty happy with what we did there.
Yeah, because I've watched some of your videos. If not mistaken, you did also 220 squat in training.
Yes. Yeah.
But the record is 211, I think.
Mhm.
Well, still a record.
Yeah, it's a record, but yeah, we did pretty much higher number, and I did a couple of times 215 at the gym. It was easy, so there was probably something that we messed up a little bit with the weight cut. So, or like I messed up, not my coach, I messed it up. So that's something we will have to improve for the word. So we have 11 weeks to figure it out, and hopefully we get better number there.
So just to give a little bit of context for the people listening, we are talking about here a 76 class lifter, correct? With 211 squat on competition and 120 bench, I think, and 232, 245.
232.5.
232 deadlift. Okay, and this was done just a few days ago in Malaga for the Euros, and she obtained the third place overall. So this is just to give you a little bit of perspective of the strength we are talking about. Okay. Ok, so one moment, I will translate it in Italian, and then
Yeah,
we
no
continue,
problem.
ok? Allora, buongiorno ragazzi, oggi come vedete qui ho ospite con me Lucie, è una ragazza che in questo momento vive in Islanda e vive lì da una decina d'anni e ha appena gareggiato agli europei di powerlifting raw femminili nella categoria meno 76. Mi ha raccontato un pochino la panoramica di come stava andando, di come è andato l'ultimo periodo delle gare e sostanzialmente questa gara qui degli europei, dove ha fatto terzo posto, è stata per lei un po' una rivincita, una riscossa, perché usciva da un periodo di 2 o 3 anni dove ha avuto tutta una serie di difficoltà a riprendere gli allenamenti perché è diventata mamma per la terza volta. Infatti questo sarà un po' uno dei temi di cui parleremo dopo. È diventata mamma per la terza volta e ha fatto tutta una serie di difficoltà per allenarsi perché insomma è stato complicato riprendere gli allenamenti e gli europei che ha fatto nel 2023 in particolare mi diceva che sono stati un disastro, sono stati molto male, è andata una gara molto, molto difficoltosa. Poi per fare i mondiali l'anno dopo sostanzialmente non è riuscita a entrare in categoria di peso in tempo, quindi non ha potuto partecipare e adesso finalmente nel 2025 appunto con gli europei è finalmente riuscita a riprendere gli allenamenti, allenarsi bene. Mi diceva che sostanzialmente è molto soddisfatta di quello che ha ottenuto, considerando il fatto che ha possibilità di allenarsi per tempi limitati, perché sì, è mamma di 3 figli, si allena, però deve anche lavorare, quindi ha circa 3 giorni a settimana in cui può dedicare 2 ore di allenamento e questo è il massimo che può ottenere. E considerando tutto, insomma, sono fantastici risultati, vedere che migliora, che le cose vanno bene anche con così poco tempo da dedicare, è ottimo. Il suo allenatore è Joy Flex, più che noto. E per darvi un po' di contesto, lei nella 1976 ha fatto 211 di squat agli europei, che è il record europeo, nonostante lei abbia fatto anche 220 in allenamento, ha fatto 120 di panca e ha fatto 232 di stacco. Questi sono i numeri che le hanno valso il terzo posto agli europei. Ok. I'm trying to be as fast as possible, so I'm not annoying you to stay here listening.
No, no problem.
So you talk about cutting weight for the weight class. So in
Yeah.
2024, you attempted to enter the 76 class, correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Would you like
then
to talk
the
about
first, yep. Talk about what happened there.
yeah, what happened there and the way the water cut or gut cut or any strategy you implemented and
Yeah. I just for the words there, I did water cut and gut cut, and I think it was just like a little bit high demands on my body at that point. I was about it was actually 1 year after I had my last baby. But I think that at that point my body just like refused to cooperate. Like I don't know really what happened there. It never happened to me. I don't know. Maybe it was the water. Maybe I was not supposed to drink the water from the tap. Maybe there was like more minerals or something. I have no idea. I was just like the water was just not dropping. The weight was not dropping, and then I was like, okay, let's see what happens. Maybe I just flush it out like on the last day. But it didn't happen, and then I was complaining in the morning, and I just woke up and I was like 70, 8.5, like just before the weigh-in, and I was like, oh, I cannot, and it was such a bummer because you fly all the way to Lithuania, right? And you take time off and you train and everything, and then you don't even get to step on the platform. It's a little bit different if you like mess up the day, but when you don't even get to compete, it was like it was a big bummer. And I had actually people are so nice. They reach out to me, and they're like, they were really nice to me. Even Leah Bavois, she reached out to me, because she didn't make the weight in 2022 when I was competing my first words. So we were, yeah, was of course a little bit a bigger problem for her because she would be most likely the champion, right, the world champion at that point. But I was not definitely competing for that spot. But it still sucks, when you don't get to compete because you just don't make the weight, And I've been pretty heavier after the third baby. I was always like just at 76, 75, but after the third one, it's been like a little bit harder to get back to the previous number. But it's like now happening just naturally. So I think that just the body probably needs some time to adjust. I had 3 kids in pretty short time. Like my oldest is 6. So it's probably just like a lot of stress on the body, and probably at some point just didn't want to really do what I wanted, or like didn't want to meet the demands that I was putting on it. So
Did your body weight come down back to around 76 now?
yeah, I'm more like at the 78, 77 right now. So that's much nicer. So, but I'm actually trying to get just stable at 76 because I think one of the problems that happened during the Euros is, I don't know if you saw the squats, but they were super deep. They're like way too deep than I ever do during my training. And I think that one of the thing is like when you do the gut cut, I like feel so flat that it's like a little bit of a cue when I touch the belly that now I'm supposed to go up, but then there was nothing to stop me, so I went way too deep and I lost balance and misgroove on the second attempt, but I still got it up. And then on the third one, I just was too heavy for the mistake that I did. Like it was, I think, technical failure more than that the strength wasn't there on the day. So that's probably something that we'll have to work on, and I have to figure this out because this is such a silly way to miss, squat attempt. So yeah, that was a bummer, but we're gonna figure it out. It's gonna be okay.
So the plan to cut the weight was through the gut cut mainly, or
Yeah.
also water loading and.
Yeah, we did water loading too and gut cut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so yeah, we did that.
Okay, so I feel you. I understand the feeling of going down in the squat and all of a sudden finding void and nothing that
Yeah.
sustains you, and that's very weird, especially if you are used to train in a different way until few days before, and then all of a sudden you find that, especially if you have to go deeper than you're used to.
Yeah, I
This
went
also
way
is
too
a.
deep. I was looking at these videos and none, like I take pretty deep squats, like because I want to be really sure that I do hit the depth when I'm competing, especially when you're trying to break the record. It seems like they're paying even more attention to the depth than normally. So I really want to make sure that they're deep enough, but definitely this was like not planned that it would go this deep. So yeah, it's something that we have to figure out. That's probably maybe a better issue to have than going way too high, So
Of course.
yeah, we're just gonna work on that.
So going back to the water cut and gut cut, uh, did you also practice the same weight cut before in 2023 and so on? So was it something that you were used to that, or?
Yeah, yeah, but I think that so what happened in the 2023, for example, is so I had my infant baby with me. I was breastfeeding also at that time and waking up very often at night. And often, I don't know, she didn't do really well in different environments. And even though my mom was trying to help me, she just wanted to be with me. So I basically slept like 3 hours before the meet and cutting, right? And you have a baby and you're like constantly sleep deprived, the first year of the baby. So I think that I usually can like pull through it, and I would sometimes have really good training, even though I slept like really badly. But then it would catch up to me like 2 days later. But there is just, it just I wanted to stay like, hyped and feel good. But yeah, once I started putting the when I was getting even closer to my open, I was like, oh, this is gonna be a really heavy day today. It's not there. So yeah, that sucked because I was hoping to get good numbers at the Euros there, but yeah, that didn't happen. So yeah, I did. It was very emotional period in my life, but it's probably normal. But also, I should have maybe given myself a little bit more grace. Just be like, okay, you just had a baby. Just take it slowly. And also because I went through it before already with my daughter in 2020. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna get back. I'm just gonna start improving straight away. But the level where I was when I had my second daughter was like much lower than right now. So I had just way too high expectations, on myself, and that's probably uh, where was the failure. I should just have been like, okay, I'm just going to do whatever I can do. Like there's no shame in that. You're like still training hard and finding time to train. And instead I was just like trying to push like I don't have anything else in my life to do, than just train.
Yeah, of
So
course.
I
Okay.
know when I look back at it now, I think there was like silly approach, but sometimes you just don't see it right, like when you're in that situation. I'm gonna put
Okay, so one more time again, one moment, I translate in
yeah.
Italian, ok? Allora, mi stava un pochino raccontando di tutta la sua esperienza col taglio peso, col rientrare in categoria, eccetera, e riassumo un pochino. Sostanzialmente lei ha fatto una combinazione di taglio dei liquidi con il carico e scarico di acqua, che è una delle pratiche più utilizzate da sempre, con quello che adesso è diventato un po' più popolare, che è il gut cut, cioè sostanzialmente modifichi l'alimentazione in modo di trovarti più leggero, principalmente perché hai meno roba che ti gira ancora dentro per la pancia, ecco, per dirla in maniera elegante, cioè hai meno contenuto all'interno dell'intestino e pesi qualcosina in meno con quello. Mi raccontava che appunto quando non è riuscita a entrare in categoria nel 2024, se non sbaglio, per i mondiali, lì probabilmente un po' complice ancora che era molto vicino alla gravidanza e stava ancora allattando, e complice il fatto che probabilmente ha detto che aveva un po' chiesto troppo al suo corpo, il suo corpo si è trovato che sostanzialmente non rispondeva, non si è trovato a perdere i liquidi come avrebbe dovuto da piano, e si è trovata la mattina della pesa un paio d'ore che sostanzialmente era fuori di 2,5 kg, perché la pesa era sotto i 76, lei era 78,5, e quindi si è trovata che sostanzialmente non ha potuto partecipare. È stato un momento molto difficile per lei perché appunto non hai neanche la possibilità di provare. Ehm, in generale, comunque, questa cosa di fare il taglio peso, eccetera, è una cosa che lei era abituata, già lo faceva altre volte e tendenzialmente il suo corpo rispondeva abbastanza bene, anche se hai comunque un po' dei postumi, nel senso che anche semplicemente con il gut cut ti trovi ad avere è come se avessi la pancia vuota vuota, no? E quindi ti trovi in particolare nello squat, scendi e ti senti che hai questa sezione di vuoto, di avere meno supporto. In particolare è successo che quest'ultima gara qui agli europei, gli standard per gli squat di profondità erano più alti, cioè nel senso chiedevano più profondità, e si è trovata a scendere molto di più, nonostante lei dice di essere molto attenta alle profondità, eccetera, però per evitare le nulle ha dovuto scendere molto di più, e combinato a questo con la sensazione di appunto di avere il vuoto, di non avere il sostegno perché il girovita è più stretto rispetto a quello che fino a una settimana fa era, e si è trovata un po' in difficoltà, e quindi questo secondo lei è un po' buona parte del motivo per cui ha fatto un po' meno del previsto, che comunque ha fatto record europeo, cioè, e si è trovata che comunque ha tirato su, ha fatto, però sperava un po' meglio. Per quanto riguarda il resto, parlava un pochino in generale di come è stato il post gravidanza, che adesso approfondirò, ed effettivamente diceva che nonostante abbia avuto il supporto di sua mamma per andare in gara e tutto quanto, sei praticamente per un anno abbondante che dormi poco, sei continuamente in carenza di sonno, fai fatica a essere energetica, fresca, e quindi sì, sostanzialmente è stato molto importante sulle prestazioni sue. Okay, I would like you to explain a little bit better how it feels and how it is to try to be a competitive powerlifter while at the same time being a mom, and I mean a fresh mom. I mean
Yeah.
you just gave birth and you immediately start training. Also because I've seen some of the content you posted, and there are videos of you lifting heavy, very heavy, very late in the pregnancy. So could you please explain a little bit better all these aspects?
Yeah. So, as I said, I have three kids, and I did train powerlifting throughout two pregnancies. So the second one was when I was like lifting, I think my top squat was like 150. So I did squat that back then. And now during the second pregnancy, or the third pregnancy, I was like going up to 180 kilos and, without belt. And was deadlifting. Like I would say that I could still like deadlift and squat and bench press like about 90-95% of what I can do, like what I could do before competition there. And so I was lifting pretty heavy, and also because it was like my third pregnancy and second pregnancy while powerlifting, I was feeling a little bit more like confident with what I can do and what I cannot. Um, I did not really experience any like bad effects. Quite on contrary, if I like would like stop training, I get lots of like pelvic floor pain. So if I was doing deadlifts and squats, my pelvic floor felt really good, and my hips. But if I like stopped training, I would feel really sore and was very painful. I felt lots of pressure in my pelvic floor. So it was very interesting that it was actually the other way around than people would probably think. One thing that is very interesting, I had really severe carpal tunnel syndrome with my first baby. And with my second and third, it was always like if I did like deadlift, it sort of, I don't know if it was the blood flow or anything as you're holding on the heavy barbell, but there was a big thing like this symptom totally disappeared. Every time if I felt like a little bit like tingly in my fingers and I did deadlift, it just felt fine, afterwards. I was just fine. So I experienced very little like, side effects, like bad side effects of like lifting. I was also trying to a little bit like help other people who are interested in pregnancy and powerlifting or strength training in general. I was trying to help them collect some data because it's really hard to get some information about this, right? It's still such a new thing, and it's hard like to do research on that. Like you're not going to say, okay, let's say 10 women who are pregnant, you train as you used to and lift heavy, and you don't, and let's see who miscarries, who's going to lose the baby. So that'd be really
Yeah.
unethical, right? So it's really hard to get any information, and like usually healthcare providers just play it safe. They would be like, oh, don't lift anything like over 20 kilos, right? But 20 kilos can be for some women really heavy, and for some women could be like ridiculously low, right? So I'm a big believer in like if you feel like it's not good, like your body is going to self-regulate, and you just like listen to your body. So as long I bench press for my whole pregnancy. Some guidelines say like don't lay flat on your back after 14th week or something like that. But I'm like, I don't think that you're just going to suddenly lose consciousness. You're probably going to feel that something is wrong. Like when you do deadlift and you like suddenly start having black in front of your eyes, right? Like this was really heavy. So I'm just like, also when I'm coaching other pregnant women and postpartum women, which is like, I'm making sure that they feel good, they don't feel any pain, not discomfort. If they do feel something, we just take step back, or we just modify. Lots of things that help me, for example, like with being able to train still like with high intensity, but maybe with lower weights, was like I focused a little bit more on speed work. So I was doing lots of like dynamic effort squats, for example. Like I would pause in the bottom and then go really heavy, like quickly up, and that sort of like maintain the explosiveness and like a little bit more strength. So I did not squat that heavy so often, but I always like kept the intensity pretty high. So that's what I was doing. And yeah, it's just like I was so sure that I wanted to continue powerlifting during my pregnancy. I didn't want to take a break and then start building back again. So I have to say that I maintained lots of strength, and I actually competed at 7 months pregnant. That's probably what most people on the internet got really upset about, because I was competing with like big belly. And it was a fun experience, and it's a little bit fun because there is like women now on Instagram who reach out to me and they say like, oh, I competed also while pregnant. And my goal with that meet was more like, okay, I'm training, I'm doing this anyway at the gym. I could as well just like take part in a meet, And my goal was like, I'm just going to take weights that are comfortable. I don't want to look like I'm struggling. I'm not going there to like do my best. It was just like to have fun and just show like, I can still lift heavy even though I'm pregnant. And some women just like to do it now, like as a fun, part. Like, I just went to compete at powerlifting meet somewhere in America or something because I saw you do it. So it's also a big responsibility because you want to have like good effect on people, and there are some just people who go like too extreme, right? So you always want to keep it safe. And I do not do any like general recommendation for women. And if I'm working with some pregnant women, I just like to do it personally, so I can really guide them through the process. But when it comes to myself, I think that we're always a little bit like push ourselves a little bit more, right? And we like push others. So that's a little bit my approach. But also at the end of the day, the baby and the health of the baby, and also my health is the most important thing, right? It's not the powerlifting. So I was always ready to just go take a step back if I needed, that I had to, and also the body just self-regulates. So, by the time I was 8 months pregnant, you just start feeling like winded, like you cannot breathe after doing like 2 reps. So you're just like sort of going to gym just to do something, just to do the movements, keep, the movement patterns in your head, but modify, a lot, do sumo squats, sumo deadlifts instead of normal, or like block pulls or something, just to like allow the body still lift, but you just have to work around the big belly that's growing, So, but I know that the closer I was to my due date, the more break I was taking, the more steps I was taking back. And I was like, okay, it's just like a couple of more weeks. And then, I have some recovery and can start over again. So it's always to keep good to keep in our head, because probably the biggest lesson that I learned from that is like, it doesn't really matter the training that you like, it matters the training during the pregnancy. But anyway, I still had to build up from like zero, up again, because there is some postpartum period, you know, but your body is just, affected. It's not just a pregnancy, but then like postpartum and then the baby and the hormones, and like you feel really bad, or like your body feels weird, your body looks different, it behaves differently. So at the end of the day, it will still take you like about a year to like come back, even though you're training throughout the whole pregnancy, you will probably still need about a year to feel a bit more like yourself, So I think that was the biggest lesson from whole this experience.
So you managed to compete at 7 months,
Yeah.
and but when was the moment when you realized that okay, maybe now it's time to scale back a little bit, to lower the weights a little bit? So as you said, you can still train, you can still go through the movements, but there is I suppose there was a moment where you say, okay, maybe now it's better for me to just be very, very light and be careful.
Yeah, I don't think that I went really, really light, but like definitely like scaled back on and did more like accessory exercises. That would just be like, okay, I'm just going to do squat, bench press, and deadlift like once a week, you know, like each of these lifts once a week, and then the rest was just like, a little bit dumbbells, a little bit of this and that. So I don't know. I think it was like pretty short after the meet that the baby was just getting out of control, and I just felt like, I need to take a break. So plus when you have another 2 kids at home, it's just so difficult, right, to just like be taking care of them. So you're really tired. So I would say that like around the 8th month, I started like taking like serious step backs. So that's when I lowered the weights, did lots of modifications, belt squats instead of normal squats, uh, block pulls instead of like deadlifting from the floor, bench press with feet up because I just couldn't like reach with my feet down without like stretching my belly uncomfortably. So that was probably the point when I had to modify much more my training. And then at some point it was like a lot of like mental. also thing because I'm always pregnant for a very long time. I'm always pregnant for like 41 to 42 weeks. So at some point it's just like so big and you just want to give birth and you just don't feel like doing anything else. So I think at probably around the 38 mark, I was just sort of just going to gym to just like keep going, to keep showing up because I didn't want to take such a long break. But I definitely felt back then like it was a duty, to do that. Like I did not, I don't want to say that I did not like, I always like lifting and I always feel better when I go lifting, right? You sometimes don't feel like going to gym, but then you go and then you feel great and you're happy that you went. So there was the same thing, but yeah, it was much more like a challenge, to get to the gym or actually do something.
Ok. Allora, mi ha raccontato un pochino di com'è stata la gravidanza e allenarsi durante la gravidanza. Allora, lei sostanzialmente ha avuto 3 figli nell'arco di meno di 5 anni, 4 anni, qualcosa, mi ha detto, perché il più grande ha 6 anni adesso e l'ultimo ne ha quasi 3, 2, 2 e mezzo, una cosa di questo tipo. E mi raccontava un po' il periodo di allenamento durante. E allora, la cosa curiosa è che sostanzialmente lei, a differenza di quello che di solito si vede nelle persone in gravidanza, lei è riuscita a allenarsi praticamente sempre. Poi, quando mi diceva poi adesso nel finale, mi diceva che più o meno verso l'8° mese è circa il periodo in cui ha detto ok, adesso devo un pochino stare, cioè devo inventarmi qualcosa, girarci un po' attorno con attenzione, perché tante cose sono diventate infattibili e quindi magari appunto mi diceva non inarca più la schiena nella banca, mette magari dei rialzi sotto i piedi, si concentra mai più che altro su complementari con i manubri, cose di questo tipo e si limita a fare giusto qualcosina di squat, panca e stacco, eccetera, o comunque ha evitato grandi sforzi. Però la cosa curiosa è che lei sostanzialmente è riuscita anche a gareggiare anche al 7° mese, che è stato anche poi una delle cose che le ha tirato anche molte critiche, dopo infatti ne volevo parlare. Ehm, ha avuto tutto sommato delle esperienze positive, nel senso che è riuscita a allenarsi, stava anche abbastanza bene. Mi diceva che curiosamente, a differenza di quanto mai si potesse pensare, stava meglio fisicamente in termini di dolori e quant'altro quando si allenava rispetto magari quando prendeva qualche giorno di riposo. Mi raccontava del tunnel carpale che ha avuto, che quando faceva stacco le passava e quando non lo faceva le tornava a dar fastidio. Però sostanzialmente ha detto che durante il periodo della gravidanza, per buona parte della gravidanza, lei era comunque nel range del 90-95% della forza che aveva. Ha preso poi una pausa un po' più seria dopo il parto, perché appunto lì è tutta scombussolata, c'è la presenza ovviamente del figlio e quant'altro, e mi diceva che in linea di massima per tornare più o meno a posto, nel senso di tipo pre-gravidanza, ci voleva circa un annetto in cui sei appunto scombussolato. Lei comunque durante la gravidanza è riuscita a fare anche 180 di squat, a fare insomma anche chili importanti che di solito non si vedono e è sempre un po' un tema delicato, infatti adesso spero di riuscirne a parlare, perché non è che ci siano tanti studi e materiali a riguardo su cosa fare, come comportarsi, non è un ambito in cui c'è ricerca e volutamente puoi far sperimentare certe cose alle mamme incinta, perché appunto cioè, non vuoi correre dei rischi inutili, non sai cosa comporta e sicuramente tante persone mai non se la sentono di partecipare. Quindi è un po' da navigare a sensazione, da navigare un po' a intuito e a buon senso, e lei mi diceva che effettivamente si è basata molto anche su come si sentiva, nel senso che il corpo gli dà degli indizi, dà dei segnali e anche i carichi che magari le raccomandazioni che ti danno alcune volte, quelle generiche, sono un po' da prendere in maniera relativa, perché magari 20 kg per una persona possono essere tanti da sollevare, ma per una persona che fino a prima di rimanere incinta ne sollevava 200, 20 kg non sono granché. Quindi anche quando lei ha fatto la gara appunto a 7 mesi di gravidanza, comunque ha preso dei tentativi, ha fatto dei tentativi delle alzate abbastanza comodi, non è che è andata lì facendo delle grindate assurde, è stata senza cintura, solite cose. Questo è un po' più o meno il quadro. So I'm curious about the pushbacks you might have received during your training period, because I imagine that there's not many doctors that will advise you to do such behaviors. I guess because uh, nowadays there are a lot of talks about, you can still move, train, and be active during your pregnancy. You're not so fragile that you cannot do anything. but the general recommendations are quite different than what is
Mm-hmm.
maybe correct for a powerlifter that is at your level. For example, I remember when I was back in at university in exercise science, we talked about this stuff, but it was very general, and it was like, yeah, maybe she can still do something very light and gentle, move a little bit of cyclet, a little bit of walking, that kind of stuff. As soon as you start introducing some lifting, some weights, everybody, oh, whoa, 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 whoa.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I imagine that, considering especially the fact that it's something that touches our emotional self in a deep way, so we have an emotional response when we see some footage, for example, you lifting heavy, it's not an immediate wait, let me think what's going on. Maybe she knows what he's doing. Maybe she's
Mm-hmm.
not doing something wrong. Maybe she's a professional lifter, but we have this immediate emotional reaction of this is wrong, this is bad, this is gonna be harmful for the kid. So I suppose you received a lot of criticism during your pregnancies.
Yeah. Not face to face, really. Because I think that the people who know me, they like trust my judgment, that I would not do anything to harm my baby. So, but it's mostly on the internet, right? But I would say that it's pretty like balanced right now because there's lots of women who train, much more women who do actually lift weights, right, than maybe 15 years ago. So lots of women who do CrossFit, for example, or powerlifting or weightlifting, they continue to do it during pregnancy. But I know absolutely what you mean because sometimes on my feed, like for example, appears a woman who's like rock climbing and she's rock climbing when she's pregnant and it has the same thing within me, right? Because I'm like, okay, powerlifting is pretty like controlled movement, right? The worst thing that can happen is like you just get some weird feeling, that something just like it's too heavy in the pelvic floor, didn't feel right, like some tweak or something. But like seeing very pregnant women like climbing on a rock, it makes me also a little uncomfortable, but I'm also at the same time like, okay, she probably knows what she's doing, like it makes me really uncomfortable, but I trust her judgment because that's the sport she's doing. She probably knows what she can do or not. I feel the same if I see women who are 8 months pregnant, they're doing like snatch, you know. I'm also getting with this like, like the belly is like right there, makes me also like uncomfortable. Mm, or like seeing women doing like burpees. I think there is definitely things that you just see and you just think like, oh, this is just stupid. Like you sometimes you just see it and you're like, oh, this just doesn't seem right. But I think that in the powerlifting, so I think that overall, when I'm coaching people, I coach mostly like general public, general demographics. So I coach powerlifters, but it's usually like online. But if I have people in my private coaching, that's usually like normal people. And I work with lots of moms and lots of old people. And I just think that in general, it's very beneficial for our body to be strong. So I would never say probably women who's used to lifting to stop lifting altogether because she's pregnant. I think like scaling back, taking steps back, going lighter, that's the way to go. It also depends on the level of woman. So if somebody started lifting with barbells like 12 weeks ago and gets pregnant, like, yeah, that's probably enough time for your body that you're already adapted and we can continue. Sometimes women reach out to me like, oh, I want to start lifting and I just found out I'm pregnant. So then I'm like, we should probably wait. Like this is probably not the time to start doing some new movement. So if the body's adapted, I think that you can be also improving while you're pregnant. I know women who started like and had deadlift like 100 kilos and ended up with like 140, at the end of the pregnancy. So because it's also like these are still like maybe numbers on the lower scale, like in today, like society, right? Women are just lifting amazing numbers today that are unbelievable. So we're still like a little bit within like the normal range. Uh, but yeah, like I did get definitely lots of like negative response, but surprisingly, it's mostly from men, you know. And I think it's also the fact like also my husband, he was just like sometimes be worried, like, oh, I don't know if I want you to do this, and it's absolutely natural, right? But he would always like support me throughout the whole thing. But of course, he's like worried because he doesn't know what's happening there, right? He doesn't know what I'm feeling if I'm like pushing way too much myself, and that I could be like endangering the baby. And I think that there's always like fine line, somebody might be getting to that spot, like there are like people who are not behaving in the best way when they're pregnant, right? Women who are just doing all kinds of things, So I think that yeah, there's definitely like fine line, but and that's why it's also like important when you have the like social media platform like on Instagram, and people look up to you, that be like, okay, this is what I'm doing, but this is not recommendation, like general recommendation, like this is what I do because I'm a powerlifter and I've been competing for long, and these are my numbers before. So I'm actually doing lower weights than I used to, but it might be way too much for you. You shouldn't be pushing yourself to be hitting PRs during pregnancy. So that's it's just so nuanced, You just cannot give like this blanket recommendation or information about pregnancy, I would say. I'm working actually on getting certification for like postpartum and pregnancy training. And there are like some things, like for example, in that guideline, there is which that you shouldn't be training lying back, on your back from like second trimester. And I've been coaching pregnant women, and I see other pregnant women, and this is not really the thing, like most women don't lose consciousness, or like don't like cut off the blood flow to their baby or to their head just because they lie down on their back and do like 5 reps on bench press or something like that. So I think it's just like it's so hard to like this is not like a normal training where we can like take risks, like worst case scenario if you like overtrain and you're like 25-year-old girl, like your worst case scenario, you're going to be really tired and you will need like a maybe week to recover, But like if we do something wrong in this case, even though the research is showing that it's very unlikely, that's another thing, it's very unlikely that something like that happened. Like that there is like no link between lifting heavy and miscarriage, Uh, it's also very unfortunate because sometimes women reach out to me and they're like, I don't know, just found out they're pregnant and they're like, I want to keep powerlifting, And then I say like, yeah, I have a conversation with them. And then maybe a couple of weeks later, they tell me that they miscarried, And that's another thing that like, I also bring up to women, like, sometimes, well, it's so unfortunately common that you miscarry in the first trimester. I don't know, they're like saying that some crazy number, like 40% of pregnancies end up with miscarriage. Often it's just pregnancy that women often don't know even that they were pregnant, right? It's also counted in that. So, but yeah, it just unfortunately happens, and we definitely have women around us who do not live and miscarry, right? So, but then sometimes they live, and then maybe they feel like I did something wrong because I miscarried after that. So, it's really like vulnerable topic, altogether. Um, so yeah, it's really hard, and I see it as a big responsibility to have this platform, and I don't dare to give like overall recommendations, say like, oh, this is what you're supposed to be doing, like imitating me or something like that. Absolutely not. I absolutely do not recommend that. And I think that I'm like this special snowflake, in like a pool of everyone else that should just like keep training, but yeah, just take it a little bit lighter. This is like you should maintain your strength. You're going to benefit from that. Also, like having a child, it's like it's good to be strong when you have child. Because first of all, like you have all this stuff that you have to carry around with yourself, and like getting bags out of the car and everything. Strength makes everything easier. Like all these everyday tasks become easier if you're strong. So strength is always good, but yeah, when you're pregnant, you should like either like maybe work with somebody who you trust, or just like be more careful than you would be normally. So that's maybe what I would say.
Yeah, I think also that the fact that you explained that in the first trimester, there are unfortunately a big amount of unwanted events, and sometimes when it happens, it's hard for you to accept the fact that it happens, and
Mm-hmm.
you start to blame yourself for what you did, or this is just our human tendency of seeing patterns beyond things. So it happens also with less important things, but that you try to associate. Well, I had back pain today, and maybe it was yesterday. Sometimes it's true, sometimes it's not true. So it's a hot topic because when you find yourself in these situations and you're also training and you're trying to do something that is a new field, basically, because it's an unknown world and you're working on something that is never been worked
Mm-hmm.
before, it's very easy to get blamed, or to find people that says, see, I told you.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's, if everything goes well, okay, but if something goes wrong, it's a big problem. So I think that is something that we have to accept the fact that we don't have data maybe on that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
As you said, there are no clinical trials on that. You cannot just take moms and okay, you try this and let's see how many survives. Uh,
Yeah, exactly. So
it's some
also, like, I would say that also the social media makes it like people say lots of things that they would not say normally, you know? Like you would probably not go to woman who just like lost her baby and say like it's because you were training, you know. You should have like just be lying down. But I sometimes like see in some Instagram profiles, women who like are active or something, and then they share that they miscarried or something like that. And people can be really nasty, you know. Some people like social media gives you like this way of being nasty to people anonymously and saying things that you have in your head, but you would never like say them to anyone in person. So yeah, I was like sometimes thinking like, you know what, it was the worst thing would be worst thing, of course, but like like this, like if something happens, even if it would not be connected to this, whatever. um I had like my first one was almost stopped. Like he didn't have, he was not breathing, when he was born, and yeah, and then you're thinking, okay, if something like that happened, and it would like, and they would like stillbirth or something, everybody would be blaming that, right? So it's also like, yeah, it's a very hot topic and difficult conversation, about this whole thing.
Yeah, also there is the very important topic about I mean, the fact that there are social medias now and that you can portray an image of you doing stuff and that you have followers and people following you, and especially if you're doing something that is unusual, a lot of people will watch. uh, I think you have the responsibility, as you said, you have to, to take a big disclaimer and say, you know what, this is not a recommendation, this is not medical advice whatsoever. So don't do what I'm doing. But this kind of disclaimers is from a legal standpoint okay, but from a social standpoint, they work mm, so
Mm.
and so. And as you say, there are a lot of people that do dumb shit, and
Yeah, exactly.
especially if they know that this is gonna give them attention, this is gonna give them followers, that they're gonna give a goal or something, and
Hmm.
this is the mom that did so, and look at her and stuff. So there is a fine line, as you told me before. There's a fine line, and it's difficult to understand, even from the viewer perspective. Understand, is this person doing something for real because she really thinks that it's a good idea, or is she doing that because
For
she's
the
now
cloud.
into something, and you know so
Yeah, definitely. It's like because I was not. It's more like so when I started when I was pregnant with my third, I had only like I don't know 1,200 followers or something like that, and I don't have like way too many about followers right now. But it's true that like these videos got like most attention was the videos when people saw me training pregnant or or postpartum. And the thing is that I was not doing it like for clout. It's just like I did it before, and I was like, well, you know, some women, because when the first time I was pregnant and I was powerlifting, I saw Megan Scanlon. She was competing at the Sheffield. We were pregnant at the same time. And I saw like another powerlifter who's like training. And I was like, oh, she keeps training when she's pregnant. You know, so for me it was just a little bit like encouragement, seeing someone else doing something the same and be like, okay, she's doing it. I might try probably I probably can keep training during my pregnancy anyway. So I started just wanting to give other women, maybe who are like me back then, you know, who are like a little bit like hesitant because they're not really sure, like a little bit of like, this is my testimony, you know, of like me going through this, but I don't live off this, you know, like it was just like sharing the experience and hopefully be helpful for others, you know, with my experience.
Okay, so give me a moment, I will translate it in Italian, okay?
Yeah.
I have plenty of stuff to translate.
Yeah, so no problem.
Ok, abbiamo parlato un pochino di tutta la gestione delle persone attorno a te quando sei in gravidanza e ti alleni, di tutte le difficoltà che ci sono state e del fatto che è un tema un po' bollente, è un tema un po' difficile da gestire sia emotivamente sia a livello pratico, anche su raccomandazioni e quant'altro. Allora, come ho detto prima, purtroppo non ci sono dati, non ci sono raccomandazioni specifiche per questi contesti qua e ovviamente non li si può neanche più di tanto pretendere perché non puoi prendere delle persone e obbligarli a fare delle cose che hai il sospetto che possano far male o testare fino a che punto non succede qualcosa di brutto in gravidanza facendo, non so, sforzi estremi. Quindi è un po' una gara a vista. Qual è il problema? Il problema è che questo genere di cose fanno scattare istintivamente nelle persone un certo tipo di risposte emotive perché tu vedi mai una persona che è in gravidanza, con una gravidanza avanzata e fa sollevamenti pesanti e inizia a dire ma cosa sta facendo questa qua o comunque hai questa istintiva risposta di rifiuto o di critica eccetera e chiaramente quando sei esposta sui social come lo è lei o ne parli eccetera è un attimo ricevere un sacco di commenti, di casini e di problemi. Qual è poi il problema? Il problema è che è anche difficile capire qual è il confine, qual è la linea, a che punto è giusto fermarsi e a che punto invece magari una persona lo sta facendo perché si è fatta prendere un po' la mano o perché vuole dimostrare a tutti i costi di aver ragione o perché sa che le attirerà attenzioni e lei ormai si è identificata con il personaggio che fa quel tipo di cose lì. E, insomma, sappiamo bene che le dinamiche dei social moderni sono molto pericolose da questo punto di vista qua ed effettivamente ci sono persone che hanno fatto cose stupide e ne parlavo con lei ne parlava con me, e mi raccontava anche di alcune cose, ci sono effettivamente dei movimenti, delle cose, degli azzardi che dici forse questa non era una buona idea. Dopo su alcune raccomandazioni generali, perché lei mi spiegava che sta anche facendo dei corsi appunto per avere delle certificazioni per l'allenamento in gravidanza e post gravidanza con altre persone perché vuole, cioè lei lavora già come coach anche su questo ambito qui, delle raccomandazioni che sono un po' così e così, per esempio lei mi parlava che le raccomandazioni dicono di non fare esercizi da supina, pancia in su, però forse sono un po' anche lì da contestualizzare perché magari chi fa queste raccomandazioni dà per scontato che tu a pancia in su mai faccia addominali, faccia crunch, faccia robe di quel tipo e forse effettivamente non sono indicatissime, però magari metterti giù e fare qualche ripetizione di panca piana senza troppo strecciare la pancia perché sei comunque mai in una posizione non troppo inarcata. Lei ha detto che comunque sia lei sia le persone che allenava, ha detto insomma, boh, forse non è che di colpo non arriva il sangue, l'ossigeno al bambino o succedono cose strane. E in ogni caso, tendenzialmente uno si accorge che mai non sta benissimo, non si sente comodo, c'è qualcosa che non va. Quindi su queste cose qui, ripeto, si naviga un po' a vista e giustamente lei mette un po' le mani avanti e dice ragazzi io non vi sto dando, non sto dicendo cosa fare e sappiate che magari i chili che vedete che faccio in gravidanza sono comunque più bassi rispetto a quello che facevo prima di essere in gravidanza. Fanno magari impressione perché vedi una ragazza che fa 180 kg di squat con il pancione, però sappiate che mai fino a prima di essere incinta facevamo di più, quindi è abbastanza relativo il discorso. Poi sempre sulla gestione di tutti questi aspetti qui, purtroppo c'è anche il fatto che è delicato gestire le raccomandazioni o i consigli che si danno ad altre donne in gravidanza, perché come potete immaginare molte altre donne l'hanno contattata, le hanno chiesto consigli, eccetera. È difficile da gestire perché purtroppo, soprattutto nei primi 3 mesi della gravidanza, capita abbastanza frequentemente anche che ci sia qualche problema o che si perda il bambino. In questi casi qua è facile che la si prenda male o che si dia le colpe a qualcosa perché si deve trovare un colpevole. Allora, per carità, può anche essere che qualcuno mai abbia fatto qualcosa di sbagliato, però purtroppo capita anche a chi non si allena, capita anche a chi non fa nulla e qualche gravidanza non viene portata a termine. E lì è un terreno estremamente delicato, ovviamente, perché potete immaginare come si può sentire una persona che mai si azzarda a fare una cosa nuova, dove non ci sono linee guida, dove la maggior parte delle persone attorno a te ti dicono guarda che non va bene, e poi va storta, e va storta toccando cose delicate. In quei casi lì è successo, perché mi raccontava che insomma sono successe queste cose qui, è un po' difficile da gestire e la prudenza vorrebbe che magari se questa persona qui ha appena iniziato con gli allenamenti, non è un agonista, eccetera, magari forse è più furbo aspettare, forse è più furbo rallentare. Mi raccontava per esempio di delle persone che l'hanno contattata che hanno appena iniziato a allenarsi, dopo scoprono di essere incinta e le chiedevano come gestirla. Diceva, guarda, hai appena iniziato, a questo punto fai la gravidanza, fai tutto il tuo percorso da mamma e casomai riprendi dopo, cioè non ha senso, non ti perdi niente. Mentre è diverso magari per un agonista, uno che lo fa ad un certo livello da tanto tempo, dove magari qualcosina riesce a mantenere senza grossi, perché per lui relativamente a quello che è abituato a fare, gli sforzi sono minori e comunque sa quello che fa. Questo è un po' il concetto. Uh, okay. So let me ask you something else. What about pain, aches? You already told me a little bit about that, but did you experience some back pain, some sciatica, something like that during the pregnancies?
In pregnancy, yeah, let me think. So I do have lots of like pelvic pain when I'm pregnant. I do experience lots of that. It gets worse if I don't train. If I skip training, it gets actually worse. So if I would like not squat, it would get worse. And my theory is that maybe when I squat, like the muscles get a little bit tighter, you know, and that's why they like hold a little bit more stability, maybe in the pelvis, and the hips. And when I don't train, that just the relaxing gets working, and I just get really loose. That's my theory. I don't know if that could be true, but it was interesting that anytime I would be like, oh, I just don't feel like going to gym, or I'm just not going to do squats or not train legs, I would get much more pelvic pain, like the hips and yeah. So that as I told you, like carpal tunnel was like maybe one thing. But to be honest, like I had very healthy all 3 pregnancies, very healthy. I was able to. I don't even experience like nausea in the first trimester. Very little. Like with my last one, I was like a little bit like tired, but I was never nauseous. Never during my pregnancy. So I take like overall pregnancies very well, and I don't have like any diabetes. I even like my births are very easy. Like I had actually first baby I had was probably the worst birth, and it was like after induction, and there was like maybe one thing that I'm a little bit trying to maybe explain to women, because there's lots of women who are in lifting, in powerlifting, and we have very strong pelvic floor. You know, I don't know if you would agree with me, but we're supposed to be having really strong pelvic floor, and to the extent that we have more hard time like relaxing it rather than
Mm.
like tightening it. And I actually know about lots of women who are in powerlifting, and even like elite women here in Iceland. There's for example, a very good CrossFitter, Annie. She just had a baby too. She has 2 children, and she had really. It seems like women who are really strong have hard time like relaxing the pelvic floor and letting the babies out during the birth, and end up a lot with like tears. Need like help with like getting the babies out. So during my second and third pregnancy, I was actually more focusing on like learning to relax the pelvic floor rather than like trying to strengthen it, and that helped. That helped a bunch, because during my first birth, I had lots of time, very much, because I was not doing powerlifting, but I was still lifting. I was not like lifting at that level, but I was still like strong, for like a normal gym goer. That was not powerlifting. But yeah, during my second and third, I was like focusing on like learning how to relax, the pelvic floor. and I didn't experience any tearing with my second and third child. So uh, when I usually talk to other fellow lifting moms, I'm like trying to tell them like there's maybe something that you should talk about maybe with your physiotherapist or your midwife or someone, you know, that maybe the other problem might be, you know, that you're not that you don't need to strengthen your pelvic floor, you need to actually learn how to release it and like relax the pelvic floor. But overall, I experienced very little issues, or maybe it's the brain that they cannot remember anything. They always make us forget everything, so we get pregnant again. But overall, just like maybe the relaxing, like I can sometimes feel like very loose, and that's maybe also one of the way that the body regulates itself. Like you cannot lift that heavy because your body just don't want to tighten up, you know. It's just loose. It's like and I felt it the most during bench press because during the bench press, I feel like you have to really get good tightness in your body to have a good bench press, and I was really struggling there. So I think it was one of the side of the self-regulatory part of the body. I can't really remember if I had any issues outside of that. I have really easy pregnancy, you know, and that's another thing, right? Like not everybody has this easy pregnancy. So again, I'm saying like, okay, so I am like a healthy individual. I powerlift and I have easy pregnancy. You know, how many women are there like me? You know, so this also needs to be taken into consideration when anybody's following me, you know, or anything like that.
Hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about the fact that you are more loose and elastic and flexible
Mm-hmm.
due to hormonal differences while you are pregnant. Yeah, in powerlifting, this is very weird because if a person has never done anything related to lifting heavy stuff, you start to imagine the fact that you need to be tight and you need to be
Mm-hmm.
stiff. But being stiff is something that will help you. So I imagine, like, especially for bands, you're saying something very interesting because especially for bands and for a girl, uh, the shoulders are already loose. The shoulder has already a joint that is not that stable, so you need to
Yeah.
create the stability to lift heavy. Whereas maybe for deadlift is different. Uh, so I guess it will be something something very weird to experience. You know, this feeling that everything is where should I go? Where I don't feel the
Yeah, yeah,
support
yeah.
I usually feel. Um,
Yeah. Like flexible when we're pregnant, and that's the thing, like it's sometimes awkward, the movements are awkward, and it's very awkward once you get back to gym after pregnancy because it feels like learning the movements from beginning, you know, like because also when you're pregnant, right, your center of mass shifts forward, so you're squatting a little bit different, you're deadlifting a little bit different, you know, because your weight is a little bit in front of you, right? So it's like just starting from beginning, you're just learning the movement patterns over again, you know. So yeah, it's fun experience.
yeah, sounds very very weird. So basically, you had a very good experience with that. I actually expected to find some pain here and there, but nothing that big. Because a lot of girls,
Mm.
even without training or doing anything, they have a lot of back pains and stuff.
Yeah, I think that like just being strong overall prevents lots of things. I experience much more pain, and during pregnancy for sure, in my lower back if I'm sitting a lot. So now we've been sitting for a while, so I'm probably gonna have back pain afterwards. So uh, that's maybe another thing, you know, like sometimes when you're like used to moving and then you suddenly like take away the movement, you might feel worse. I think in my case that if I would just be like sitting, like changing my job, for example, I'm like thinking about it, okay, if I change my job and now from like being moving whole day, being on my feet, you know, suddenly like sitting at the computer the whole day, I'm gonna feel really bad. You know, my back is gonna be killing me, and I might be like, I'm not gonna go to gym because my back is hurting. So I cannot train because my back is hurting. You know, probably something is wrong. But it's on the contrary. So body is just like such a different, such a complex system. You know that yeah, sometimes the things that seem like illogical from the like let's say like uh this just like sort of human perspective, you know, the general human perspective, sometimes feel like that don't make sense actually work for the body the best. So yeah, it's very interesting. It's very interesting how our bodies work.
Ok. Abbiamo parlato un attimino di come è stato a livello di infortuni, di dolori, di gestione delle alzate da in gravidanza e mi ha detto sostanzialmente che a parte quelle 2 o 3 cose che mi diceva già prima, cioè un po' di dolore pelvico, un po' di tunnel carpale e poco altro sostanzialmente, è sempre stata abbastanza bene, non ha avuto grossi problemi, però mi sottolineava che lei è probabilmente anche un caso fortunato, nel senso che è sana, è allenata, non ha avuto nessun tipo di problema di salute, di gravidanza, di niente. Le gravidanze sono andate perfettamente, quindi insomma tutto è filato liscio e con la base di partenza ottima, perciò c'è anche quel fattore lì. Mi diceva in linea di massimo che comunque quando si allena sta un po' meglio anche a livello di pavimento pelvico e mi raccontava come tendenzialmente non si va a pensare che potrebbe essere che ci siano delle persone che magari hanno bisogno di rinforzarlo, ma ci siano anche delle persone che hanno bisogno mai di rilassarlo il pavimento pelvico, quindi anche lì sì, dipende un po' da caso a caso e probabilmente la powerlifting agonista di un certo livello non è un caso tipico. Perciò sì, sostanzialmente contrariamente a quanto ci si possa aspettare, lei diceva che stava meglio muovendosi e allenandosi rispetto a non farlo. Non ha avuto neanche problemi di schiena, a parte forse un po' star seduto tanto tempo, mi raccontava. E basta, sostanzialmente questa è un po' la questione principale. Okay, do you have something else you wanna add? Maybe some misconception that are very common or something else?
Mm, misconceptions. There's so many misconceptions about pregnancy. I think the big one is maybe like holding your breath when you're pregnant. That you're not supposed to be like bracing when you're pregnant. There's it's also again very different. I think I remember there's maybe one thing big thing that I had to change my breathing pattern when I was pregnant. So for example, during squats, I had to like breathe a little bit out on the way down because I could feel the pressure in my pelvic floor, and when I breathed out, like it released a little bit of that pressure. You know, it felt much better. During deadlift, I didn't have to at all. Deadlift just felt fine. Bench press felt a little bit like the squat, and like people think that you if you like brace, you just like squish the baby and they will not get to breathe. And that like the thing of like the 2-second brace is going to do something really bad for the baby. So I think that that's the most fun thing because people sometimes forget that we're pregnant, but we still go to the toilet, right? To number two. And when we're giving birth, we get very lots of like long squishes to the baby that take a couple of, you know, seconds, like 45 seconds. So I think that, yeah, that's a big one, you know, the bracing and the Valsalva during pregnancy. So that's maybe a big one. And again, it's like somebody will need to change their breathing pattern, somebody maybe not. But yeah, there's lots of things that we just do naturally. But when it comes to the pregnancy, we always see the baby, right? We see the mom, who's like normal woman who just wants to keep training. But we see also in her the baby, the tiny baby that is helpless, right? And we just like see it through this lens, and it totally makes sense. So it's always a hard balance, and it's totally understandable that people are so careful, you know, and feel so worried when they see women, or women themselves are so worried when they're training. But yeah, what do you think about bracing in pregnancy?
Oh, I'm not an expert by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah,
I don't know
they
shit about that.
okay. So yeah, they usually like recommend that changing the breathing pattern, you know, how we breathe. And often it's like that you brace at the beginning, but then on you don't hold the breath, but you like let it out as you move. So that's one way. And yeah, that's for example the one that I had to do during squats. I didn't have to do it during deadlifts at all. That felt fine. I think again, it's just like what feels good, you know. Like I saw that something didn't feel right in the squat, so we changed that, you know. uh, Deadlifts just feel good. Okay, so we just keep them doing the same way we used to, you know. So yeah, but the bracing is I remember there was a big thing. Then the lying on the back. Uh, then maybe people are a lot worried about heart rate, that you're not supposed to cross some heart rate when you're pregnant. But like doing, lifting, you don't really do cardio or anything like that. You don't do like uphill sprints in like heat or something like that. So that's something that people don't have to really worry about. I had actually somewhere a list, and I was trying to put it all on a paper, all these like big misconceptions. And sometimes it's also fun, like some people have different thoughts, they look at you and they like think about something else. Like I don't know, can't you like hit the baby, or like like people are sometimes like, well, you could squat and the barbell is just gonna fall on you and you're just gonna kill yourself and the baby, like sometimes people are just like these like things that they don't even come out to your mind, because like it doesn't probably happen normally anyway. It would be really bad for you if it happened, even if you're not pregnant. So yeah, sometimes it's like you get lots of like sometimes especially on Instagram, like comments that like make you a little bit just like laugh.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but I don't think there's like any specific uh another one that I have on my mind right now. That doesn't come to my mind. Not right now.
Maybe maybe the recommendation for not exercise on your back, laying down on your back. Maybe I think it comes from the fact that most of this recommendation comes from people that are in the medical field, but they don't know specifically powerlifting or heavy lifting or competing competition and stuff like that. So they imagine that if you're laying down on your back, you're doing probably crunches and stuff like that. So maybe why they say don't do that, but they don't think that maybe you can do something else too, and it's totally fine.
Yeah, but sometimes I feel like, you're sometimes in these mommy groups, and sometimes these recommendations, like you cannot lie on your back when you're pregnant. Some women would just take it like, I cannot lie at all, and then they would like wake up in the night lying on their back, and they would be like in panic that they're like that their baby is not dead, because they were sleeping on their back or something like that. So yeah, it's just sometimes, like I think some general recommendation are good for like the general public, or maybe the non-active individuals, to be like following. But if you're like, especially like high level athlete, like same guidelines cannot be applied to you as to like the gen pop.
Hmm. Yeah, also there is this thing that if you think that you are such a fragile being, it puts a lot of pressure on you because you're always concerned about what you might do that could be harmful, or maybe you do that and it's gonna be the end of the world. So I think also this is an important thing to be aware of, because maybe it relieves a little bit of blame on you. Um,
Yeah.
and also something that maybe I may be saying something very stupid here now, but I was thinking while you were speaking of the fact that it's only a luxury that we have right now in this modern society, the possibility of a mom to be like protected in a shield and
Yeah,
not doing
yeah, yeah.
anything, because we have a society that allows us to do that. But for the most of the human history, it wasn't like that. So I was thinking, so let's suppose for a moment that it is for real that fragile. How is that even possible that humanity survived it? Because we
Yeah.
didn't have that luxury back then. For most of our history, it wasn't possible to just stay there and, okay, I'm going to stay here only in this position, because if I move on the back, everything destroys
Yeah.
themselves. So,
Yeah, I know. So I always have like this two views at this, because right, like I I know even my grandmother, great grandmother, right? She would be like working on the field until she gave birth, and then like a few days after, she went back on the field, right? Because the things had to be done. She would live on a farm. They on a farm in like early 1900s, right? There was like few people who could work, so she just had to do it. And also another hand, like there was such a much higher, right, infant mortality back in the day, so that comes on the contrary. But yeah, I also sort of like believe that. Uh, this is like a natural process, of our body. And you see other, mammals being pregnant, in the nature, and they still, engage in like things that we might consider, like too much for women now, right? Like they still have to get food for themselves, and have to do still that. So Yeah, there is definitely like some limitations, but I don't think that it's like so that we're so fragile, no. And that comes also like I'm a big believer in like that like birth is also natural, you know, like that's a natural part of the life. And of course there are some cases like when it's you are supposed to be in the hospital. It's great that we have the option, you know, that if anything happens, there's always doctor. But I think that like there's way too many like interventions into the natural, you know, like way of the body just doing it. You know, there's like you know, like, oh, the baby is too big, you cannot give birth normally, you know, we have to do this, we have to do this. And they sometimes talk about this like cascade of intervention in giving birth, you know, and that's sort of what happened to me the first one I was induced, and then this happened and this happened and this happened and almost end up in C-section, and I was torn up and everything. And then when I did just like let the body lead, you know, and listen to the body, then it was just fine, you know. So I think that sometimes we like create this like lots of fear around something, you know. And I think that with the especially with the birth is just like such a thing of like fear, you know. And sometimes it feels to me, especially when women like share their experiences, like who had the worst experience, you know, giving birth. And I'm on the contrary, I'm more like trying to be like, oh, it was like so good, you know. This felt good, you know. It was painful, but you know, it was nice, you know, at the end of the day. And trying to be like a little bit more positive and just like you know, I had midwife during my birth, all of them, and I'm happy that there is somebody who understands and can help, you know. And I'm not proposing like this free birthing or anything. I just always think that it's good to have someone, you know, who knows what's happening and can recognize if something is going wrong and just, you know, makes the call and goes to the hospital, you know. But yeah, I think that's like one way of like when we're just like overthinking sometimes everything, you know, and then maybe it's not for the good in the end, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because Iceland, I had to say that Iceland, because I have experience from my friends. As I said, I'm not from Iceland, I'm from the Czech Republic, and the prenatal care is very different there. It's much more testing and much more scanning, and you go to all the tests all the time throughout the 9 months, and they're always testing, taking blood, everything, you know. But here in Iceland, it's more of a like, you know, you just go to a midwife, she just measures you, you know, if she thinks that something might be off, she sends you to some tests. But it's like very natural if the pregnancy is healthy. And and yeah, so yeah, I know much more women who have, for example, bad experience giving birth because of the intervention in Czech Republic than here in Iceland. So,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a little bit built up around the fear of like if you don't keep an eye on everything, you know, that's happening in there, you're just the baby is just gonna die, you know, you're gonna die during the birth. So, I think that yeah, and it's hard, right? Because they're babies, and of course horrible things sometimes happen, right? Sometimes things that we just cannot control, right? And um, yeah, it's just a yeah, as we talked about, it's a vulnerable topic in every sense, you know. So yeah, I think at the end of the day, everybody has to decide for themselves, you know, what they're gonna do or not. And what I tried to do during my journey on Instagram when I was sharing my journey was, yeah, I tried to put the disclaimers, you know, I would put there at the top, like I'm a professional powerlifter, you know, I'm used to doing this, I've been doing this for this long. These are not my maximal weights, you know, or something like that. Trying to put the disclaimer, and at the end of the day, it's like my decision, you know, and you just cannot be responsible for somebody else's, you know, decisions. But we still try to do our best to make people do the responsible thing, you know, and for the best of themselves and the baby.
Ok, allora prima mi ero dimenticato di dire una cosa riguardo a dolori eccetera che non ho più tradotto in italiano e mi raccontava che una delle cose di interesse sono il fatto che quando quando era in gravidanza e nel post gravidanza era molto più flessibile del normale, era molto più elastica del normale, quindi questo era un po' strano sul fare le alzate, soprattutto in panca, perché già la spalla è un'articolazione che non è così stabile di suo, devi star te, diciamo, a tenerla. Quando diventi molto molto più elastica per tutti i cambiamenti ormonali, eccetera, che ci sono in gravidanza, effettivamente doveva sforzarsi più del normale per tenere quella stabilità là, e anche un po' nello squat. Nello stacco ha detto che non ha avuto grandi cambiamenti. E mi raccontava dopo come il post gravidanza, il dover riprendere fa molto strano perché ti sembra di ripartire da zero con movimenti diversi perché il tuo corpo è cambiato tantissimo in poco tempo e quindi hai anche il centro di massa spostato, è tutto un po' diverso, quindi ti richiede un po' di tempo. Detto ciò, gli ho chiesto se ci sono alcuni falsi miti o fraintendimenti riguardo alla gravidanza, allenamento in gravidanza, eccetera. E uno dei primi che mi ha detto è il trattenere il respiro, che si fa tanto terrorismo riguardo al trattenere il respiro o al non fare la valsalva, eccetera, però mi diceva, guarda, alla fine anche le mamme incinte vanno in bagno e non è un grosso problema e insomma con un po' di buon senso non è tutta sta gran cosa come che si dice. Idem il discorso della frequenza cardiaca, di non alzare la frequenza cardiaca, di non far sforzi che ti facciano alzare la frequenza cardiaca anche lì. Poi insomma, per riguardo ai pesi, sostanzialmente insomma non è detto che stai facendo una maratona in salita, quindi sì, c'è un cambiamento di frequenza cardiaca, ma nulla di tragico. Poi niente, c'è un po', mi raccontava un po' in generale come ci sia tendenzialmente tanta paura riguardo della gravidanza, ci sia tendenzialmente tanta probabilmente eccessiva prudenza, ma anche qui è normale che ci sia tanta prudenza perché è meglio essere troppo prudenti che non esserlo, per ovvie ragioni, però probabilmente a un certo punto questo diventa anche un po' controproducente e mai mette addosso tanta pressione anche nella mamma che, per esempio, mi raccontavano magari una persona gli è stato detto che non può mai mettersi sdraiata sulla schiena perché non va bene e poi si trova magari di notte che si sveglia che senza volerlo si è girata e cambiato posizione, si trova girata di schiena e mai si spaventa a morte perché dice oh mio Dio succederà una cosa terribile. Probabilmente non è così terribile come si pensa. Però sì, tendenzialmente appunto si pecca per eccesso di prudenza. Ehm, Altre cose in linea di massima no, abbiamo un po' parlato in generale della gestione della gravidanza e poi mi ha fatto dei bei parallelismi con l'Islanda dove vive adesso rispetto alla Repubblica Ceca, perché non l'ho detto prima, ma lei è originaria della Repubblica Ceca ed è una decina d'anni che si è spostata in Islanda e mi raccontava della differenza nella gestione della gravidanza in un paese e nell'altro. In Islanda dice che si trova bene, che ha un ottimo sistema e che tendenzialmente sono abbastanza che lasciano fare, nel senso che si fanno qualche controllo, ma se tutto fila liscio ti lasciano in pace e si va avanti. Mentre nella Repubblica Ceca mi diceva che fanno una montagna di test continuamente, esami, analisi di continuo e che si ricorda di aver sentito anche più di qualche lamentela lì che qualcosa mai andasse storto, che fosse eccessivo mentre qui in Islanda dice che secondo lei è meglio. Ehm, Basta, questo è più o meno lo scenario. Un'ultima cosa che era una considerazione che un po' io avevo aggiunto e dopo lei ha completato, è riguardo il fatto che probabilmente, ma questa è una mia ilazione, dopo non è il mio campo, probabilmente non siamo così fragili in gravidanza come ci viene da pensare, perché se fossimo così fragili probabilmente non saremmo arrivati al punto in cui siamo a livello di umanità, nel senso che è un lusso moderno quello che abbiamo adesso di permettere a una donna incinta di star lì e su una campana di vetro non fare niente perché, oh mio Dio, appena si muove succede la tragedia. Se fosse stato così, probabilmente non saremmo arrivati qui come specie. Anche perché in tempi, fino a non tanto tempo fa, e mi raccontava anche l'esempio di sua nonna, le donne erano praticamente sempre incinta nel loro periodo fertile e c'erano tante faccende anche impegnative da fare, c'erano anche lavori sui campi da fare, c'erano lavori domestici erano decisamente più pesanti di quelli di oggi, quindi insomma probabilmente non è così tragica la situazione. Giustamente mi osservava, sì, è anche vero che una volta c'era molta più mortalità al concepimento, o insomma problematiche varie. Però sì, dopo lì si aprirebbero tante altre parentesi, tra cui insomma da valutare per quali motivi, per altre cose. Quindi sì, non stiamo dicendo di fare cose stupide senza senso o di non prendersi cura di sé, di non seguire il medico, però magari non siamo nemmeno così fragili come ci viene da pensare, perché appunto è un sistema tarato per farci peccare per prudenza, perché è più conveniente così rispetto al contrario, chiaramente. Ok, questo è un po' il quanto. All right.
Okay.
I think I'm good. I think I had enough. Do you have something else? Do you want to add something more?
Pretty much everything. We covered a lot.
Okay. So, would you like to share your contacts, your Instagram profile or something else? So if someone wanna contact you?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. It's Lucie dash lift dash no Lucie dash Martins dash lifts. Or you can find me just at Lucie Stefanikova Martins there. If you write it down in the name of the podcast, you can find me. And otherwise, I also have a website. I offer online coaching and also in-person coaching for people. More online coaching is mostly for powerlifters, and you can check that on Lucie Strength by Lucie. It's in the link in my Instagram. So just in Instagram, you can find all my information. So yeah, if you would like to be coached.
Okay, Lucy, thank you for your time. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, thank you for reaching out and taking this interview. It's always fun to share my experience with someone else.
Okay. Thank you. Have a nice day.
Thank you.